What's up, everybody? Welcome back to more esports talk. What could be possibly the first time ever on this show where I've talked about a story in the morning, and by afternoon, that story has now been resolved. That situation completely resolved, that being Atlantis releasing Mitr0 sometime soon after FCS does conclude. If you guys did not see breaking videos last night as well as this morning for our channel, is on top of all of that, Mitr0 apparently had a very poor contract alongside other Atlantis players that has now come forth as not really the truth, as both Mitr0 alongside Atlantis organization have actually made their post about this, and we find out just how fast things can unravel in negativity just based off a few tweets out there. Now, it does not actually, I would say sum up all the other players out there who could have poor contracts. We discussed this. We have possible other trio members out there who could have, maybe not the best contracts, but we also made light about this. It always depends on the context of that player, what they're doing. For us to determine how good a contract is, we need to know the full details, and with Mitr0, we now know at least more details about this, as he's actually announced in his tweet longer, guys, on screen for all of us. He will be parting ways very shortly with the organization once FCS, or the Fortnite Championship Series, does conclude. And also in their post, alongside his post, he makes sure to state he was very happy with the organization. Him and his mother have signed off with this org not once, not twice, actually 3 times. They re-signed contracts with the org, and they were okay with the terms and agreements they were actually made in those contracts. And it's very, very, I think, prominent to note here, guys, Atlantis had a great response, especially amidst apparently their players and staff receiving threats from some crazy people out there. I'm sure it wasn't you guys, but there's always those crazy people that feel the need to fight for the players in some very, very brash way. I would never recommend you guys go out and threaten people like that. So Atlantis, I would say, all in all, a great overall calm response. They took their time to actually post this, coordinate it with Mitr0's post as well, and we've now found out even further details about exactly what they took for him, which was... it wasn't really much, especially when you look at the earnings, guys, on screen again for all of you. Twitch earnings, YouTube earnings, they took 0%, and that is a tremendous contract, especially from what we've seen from the likes of a former contract of maybe a Tfue or other players out there as well. This is actually seemed to be a pretty fair contract. They also made sure to note as well, when it came to prize percentage or prize winnings percentage, which they did take, they took an industry standard, which we can assume is probably 20 to 30%, which again, we have seen time and time again here in Fortnite. That's nothing egregious. That's nothing terrible compared to most other players out there. That's fairly standard, as they said. And I think most importantly, what it came down to is Atlantis straight up said, hey, we couldn't actually field any buyout offers that were high enough to make sense for us as a business to actually let him go. Now, he did actually re-sign back in September of last year. That included a salary increase of January of this year. And of course, with that 1 year coming up, in September of now this year as well, he will be set to be released. And fairly enough, they just pretty much said, hey, we did not get a buyout offer high enough to actually offset the cost of losing him. And in fairness, he signed a 1 year contract. Pretty standard 6-month to a 1 year contract. They want to get out of fairness what they think they are owed by actually keeping him until that is up to date. And with that, they've also made sure to mention with the buyout offers they did receive, clearly they did not take any. And so they're not making any additional income from him once he is gone. So, as they still have him right now until seemingly the end of September, they're going to try and, of course, make something back as a business. When they signed him, they saw his potential, and so you got to see in fairness, signing a 1 year contract, including a salary increase, he obviously blew up as well as many of the top tier Fortnite pro players out there. They tried to renegotiate, they couldn't keep up with what he actually wanted to be offered, and so eventually at the end of his contract, they are going to let him go. And in all fairness, that seems to be pretty fair. So that's why this morning it was super important to touch on, as we had rumors out there about some Atlantis players, giving 30% of their prize winnings, only making $400 a month. It really depends on the context of who that player is, because certainly Mitr0 was making more than that and probably even giving less in terms of prize winnings than that as well. And so it all makes sense in terms of context as to who these rumors revolved around. It seemed that Mitr0 was certainly happy with the organization for the time being. As of late, he was not. They've now come to an agreement to let him go. They're not going to trick him and keep him, as we've seen some other orgs potentially do. We have to, of course, wait for that phase story and see how that plays out, how those contracts get played out and laid out in front of the court, and see what they judge as well. But there's no trickery here. There's no bribery here. They tried to renegotiate. Mitr0 said no, and they will be letting him go sometime, presumably pretty soon here after FCS does conclude. And that's the story. One of your biggest and highest earning Fortnite stars will now be available. The biggest question now is, who's going to sign the kid? Because clearly with no buyout, he's definitely a wanted talent out there, and Atlantis could not afford the salary that much larger organizations could, so he's set to be in a very good position. And so as they probably should as a business, they're going to try and milk that cow for a couple more weeks until he is set free to some other Fortnite organization. As always, my name is Jake, breaking down esports and other gaming news here every single day. Until next time, take care of yourselves. I'll see you guys soon.